We didn't decide who was going to intro, but it doesn't really matter. So welcome to the podcast. This is Before While You Work, if you haven't been here before. Not in our usual surrounding, obviously. So we're doing this virtually. So I am holed up in an apartment in Birmingham with a monkey behind me, as you can see. Not on my back, though.
No, you're not being held. You're not being held hostage, because that does sound like you're in some kind of hostage situation. No, and I'm at home at the moment. And what the noise you just heard then was my cat decided it was the perfect time to start scratching the sofa. So if you see me talking something off screen, I haven't gone mad.
Of course.
But yeah, we just thought, we've been getting quite a lot of messages from people who've been listening to the podcast. And although we've got quite a few episodes that we will release as normal during this period, a couple of people have said, haven't they, that they really liked having our voices in the background. And it was like having no friends over, droning in the background. So what we thought
or nails going down the blackboard,
exactly, yeah. Or perhaps we lull you to sleep, who knows. But yeah, what we thought we would do just during this period of real change and uncertainty for everybody is just do kind of twice a week a bit of a 15-minute chat around some stuff that we're thinking about at the moment. And then we'll be putting kind of subjects out. If anybody else wants to dial in and kind of come and do it live with us as well, we're really open to that.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we can get quite a few on this screen actually, so be quite cool. This will probably advance our podcast actually, Emma. This might be a blessing in disguise.
I'm not sure people seeing me is going to advance. I must admit, before we begin, there was a brilliant. I do think some of the best things about this type of time is just the humour that comes out. And there was an absolutely brilliant Twitter post the other day that said, "Turns out the best thing about seeing other people in person is not having to look at your own face while you do it."
Yeah, absolutely.
Because for anybody who's using kind of Zoom like we are, or the kind of house party, which has become really popular, just like the size of your own face on the screen is something I find really disconcerting.
Do you know what, that leads us really nicely into this week's podcast. Not your face, but it's the coping strategies in this slightly different way of operating. I think is a really good one. But talking of house party actually, because that's I mean, obviously I'd never heard of house party before this happened. Now everybody's jumping on it, so you're constantly getting notifications of such and such as joined. But we were having a call yesterday, weren't we, where somebody just like crashed to the room, and, and I was kind of thinking, how do you stop people crashing the room? Obviously you lock the room, which we hadn't done.
No, and actually he will be watching, so he knows who he is. It was a very welcome interruption.
It was.
But yeah, I must admit, what house party doesn't do as well, and I will warn everybody of this, it doesn't take into account any contacts you may have that you've tried to block or delete.
Exactly.
So on occasion you do I got a notification yesterday that someone who I have absolutely no desire to ever speak to again had joined. So I was like,
I know. I'm trying to figure out how to like disconnect it from your Facebook profile, because I think I mean, obviously, particularly if you've been quite lax with your Facebook friend policy,
I don't know. I have a big call every so often. So as you all know. Welcome to our Talk Ahead podcast, which is where two old ladies try to work out technology.
Yeah. So let's talk about routine, because actually, because I know sometimes actually, Emma, you kind of you tend to be kind of quite easygoing with some things, but then very, very organized with other things. So in terms of so this period of time has been quite interesting, because I'd probably say that I've probably got less of a routine than you have. I mean, there are some things that I am absolutely doing every day. So why don't we start there in terms of routine or no routine?
And I'm just going to say, for anybody who's watching us for the first time, this does sound like this podcast is a therapy session for me. So we're going to talk about my face, and then we're going to talk about how I'm really easygoing in some ways. It's really interesting. So for you and I are in quite an unusual position here, because I've been on garden leave for the past 3 months, and we've been working together. So actually, we haven't had the same structure that we would normally have. And we have talked about this before in terms of, what kind of keeps you going and what keeps you motivated. But what I found last week was actually adding some structure into my day was a really helpful way for me to stop the days all blurring into one. And I will say to all of you, we had a really funny moment. I think it was Wednesday, wasn't it, when I proudly showed you my schedule that I've drawn up.
Your schedules, plural.
Yeah, which was a
Yeah.
tremendous shock to Cheryl, because as she said, normally she's the much more planned one and I'm a bit more kind of laissez-faire, but actually it's really helping. And what I've done, based on something I saw on the internet actually, is break it down, not into kind of work or 25-minute slots, because that type of stuff just doesn't work for me, although I know it's something that you found quite helpful. Is to break it down into different parts of the day that are for something. So you've got a chunk of something that's for your body, something that's for your mind, something that's for your soul, and then something that's kind of really for your home or your surroundings, you know, and kind of becomes quite useful. So you know, you can mix that up with things like, I've been painting my fence in the garden, for example, or you know, making sure you have contact with people. But I found that breaking that down, and we'll put some stuff on the Reboot website anyway, so you guys can see it. I might share my schedule with you all if I didn't think you were going to mock me. But that's been quite helpful. And I did myself a list of things that I'd wanted to get done around my house that I haven't had chance to do. And I'm kind of working my way slowly through those every so often. And you've got quite a strong morning routine, actually, haven't you?
Yeah, the morning routine, I think, is probably the one thing that I knew I was going to kind of really sort of focus on. So I'm not at home. I'm at Leah's, my daughter's, because she was going to be on her own. And Dave was at work at the time. So I'd come over. She'd already borrowed my weight, so I've got like a barbell and stuff like that. So she'd borrowed those to kind of create like this home gym, because for her that was one of the biggest losses, was kind of like her gym closing. So for us, the physical stuff, you know, and a bit of relaxation and meditation time in the morning, that's quite key. So the morning routine is, I tend to get up first. I kind of go and do a bit of like a workout, a bit of relaxation, meditation. She then gets up and does whatever kind of workout she's doing. And then we go out either for a run, or then on the alternate days we do a walk. So that's like our bit of exercise, kind of chat time, whatever. We then sort of come back, have brunch, whatever. So we've got a really sort of structured morning routine that's the same every day, like regardless of whatever day, it's always that kind of like morning exercise, back for brunch kind of thing. And then depending on, you know, what's going on in the day, it sort of changes after that. But yeah, that bit's fairly strong. And then the rest of the day, sometimes we kind of just go with it. I was saying to you, Emma, we did yesterday, because it was a Sunday.
No, it was Sunday, so today's Tuesday. So see, the days all blend into one.
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah. So on Sunday, what we did was, after we did like our morning routine, we then pretty much just spent the day. In fact, I did the prep for the book club. So the book club that we're doing next week, the online book club, did the prep and the collateral for that. But then we had a day watching Catfish, which is something we would often do anyway at the weekend. You know, it's kind of like hangover TV, isn't it? It's like the best ever.
I mean, and also, you know, if anybody ever felt like, you know, being a catfish, I've always wondered how they had enough time to put into it. You know, now is the perfect time to begin your online dating.
Very true. So I've sort of wanted that really sort of fairly tight morning routine, but then I've probably been a little bit more fluid about the afternoon and the rest of the day. But I guess what I've tried to do is make sure that I'm keeping in touch with friends and family, and some of that's quite long lost friends as well. You know, I've had a couple of calls with people that I haven't spoken to for months, years, etc. That's been quite cool.
Well, and we are going to talk, I think, on Thursday, aren't we, around kind of, you know, who you're actually spending your online time with. And it's interesting. I've done exactly the same. In fact, there was a brilliant point, wasn't there? Well, we normally speak at 11. Yeah. And you couldn't do 11.
I mean,
because I believe you wanted to do some dancing. Yeah. And you said, oh, you know, can we speak at 11:30? And I said, no, your next slot is 1:00. So I'm trying to be less rigid. And I think there is something as well, you know, there's a slight difference that we've talked about around kind of being isolated with somebody else versus being isolated on your own. And you know, a lot of you will have seen that I posted yesterday around, I had a really hard day on Friday. In fact I spoke to you, didn't I? And I said, you know what, I need to go back to bed and give myself that permission not to be not to be productive, or not to be, you know, up all the time. And I turned off all my social media, which was really helpful. And just giving yourself permission, because these are really unusual times, and the emotions that come up are not always related to what we've got on, what's happening here, because rationally you know that you're okay, and you know what, things will be all right, but actually it brings up a lot of other stuff, because most of the time we really distract ourselves by being busy.
We do which, I think definitely that piece of, we don't have to be I always think it would be a shame to kind of have this time and be as busy. And I used to use the term crazy busy, but it would be a shame to literally be as crazy busy as we were before all of this, to be in that now. I mean, you know, and to be honest, that would take quite a lot of effort to kind of still be operating at that busy kind of pace. So I just think, you know, if nothing else, just slow it down a bit. You know, just slow it down. Just kind of be a bit more measured. You know, don't think that you've got to be sort of running at 200 miles an hour. You know, and that's how I'm trying to use the time, because, you know, the way that I used to operate, it'd be really easy for me to go into like hyper productive mode. And it's taking a lot of self-control to do it. But I think having my intention of the year of stillness is helping, because otherwise, if this were the norm, I would have put up 10 websites by now.
I know you
know
would have.
I'd have launched this, that, and the other. You know, that was
you know what?
MO.
I have to say to you, I'm not blaming Cheryl for this, but your word of the year was stillness, and I'm not saying that you have done this just to make sure that you're still, but I do believe it was you. Although I must admit, I was due to start some new interim work, wasn't I? Which has kind of fallen through and been postponed, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I said to Cheryl really flippantly about 3 weeks ago, you know, I could do with another like 3 months, just doing a lot of the learning I've been doing, a lot of the courses. Bang, you know, there we go, we've got it. So there is something around saying everybody will have different ways of dealing with this at the moment. And I don't hold that you have to be productive at a time of global pandemic, because actually, you know, this is a shocking time. It really gets frightening for a lot of us. We all feel frightened. And I think, there's something I really want to say around, you know, what we all put onto social media. Yeah. Because honestly, if I see one more person going like, oh my God, it's so amazing that I'm not having to work from home, you know, just think about the number of people who've just lost their jobs and might be struggling, or, you know, just have a little bit of empathy around that, because I think if anything, this is teaching me that, you know, that alone together hashtag is really important. And although we might think that we are individuals and on our own, actually we're all more deeply connected than we ever thought we were.
Yeah, absolutely.
So part of that part of that routine for me, you know, I have a friend of mine that I speak to at 8 o'clock every morning, and she can tell when I'm getting stressed, because I do get a lot more rigid if I feel a bit stressed. So this morning, bless her, she said she was going to go and have a shower, and I said, but it's 8 o'clock. She was like, I'll call you at 4:15. And I was, that's unacceptable to me. So you know, I think within that structure, there's something around just being really aware of what your triggers are. So, you know, your natural state's just going to be really busy all the time. My natural state to be really over scheduled and then lie face down, having a nap, you know.
The schedule gets too much.
The schedule I've created myself, that is absolutely that I feel aggrieved by, but I have created myself. So, you know, there is something around that. Yeah,
I think the stillness thing and the, you know, giving ourselves a break and being, you know, that not having to be as productive is, I'm guessing, you know, in the post that I put this morning on LinkedIn, I'm guessing that a lot of people had these amazing vision boards for 2020, because I know, like, you know, we had a really good response to the goal setting session, and I know that you know, YouTube videos and stuff like that around 2020 vision boards, goal setting, it was massive. You know, people like, this is a new decade, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be my most fabulous self, blah 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 blah. You know, and this has just been like a wake-up call. It's totally turned it on its head. And I think that's not to say that everything that's on the vision board is now gone, you know, whatever. It's not as black and white as that, but I think it's a really good opportunity to reevaluate and just not race into kind of like the next thing, or just race almost like mindlessly into, you know, keeping busy, or, you know, kind of, you know, how can I make a quick buck because I'm so scared that I'm never gonna eat again, or, you know, be able to buy toilet roll or whatever. You know, we've got to just go into this really calmly. This isn't going to be over like in 2 weeks' time, so let's not feel that we've got to like literally rush into the next day, week.
See, that's really interesting, because you say it's not going to be over, and I was literally about to say this will be over soon. And by soon I mean in a couple of months. And I think that there is I think you're exactly right, but there is something for me around how do we use the time that is given to us. You know, there's that brilliant, I mean, I can't believe I'm about to say this about Lord of the Rings, because I'm not a big fan, but you know, there's a brilliant Tolkien quote where, you know, he says we can't pick the times that we're born into, but what we can do is choose what we do with the time that we're given.
Definitely.
And I think there is something around thinking about this time. You know, if you are lucky enough to still be working and to have a level of kind of your normal life at the moment, how do you pay that forward and help other people who are really struggling? How do we actually start to think about an NHS that is paid for appropriately and that our most key workers are paid well, which is a whole different podcast, but also how do we use this time to kind of reflect on what it is that we want, reflect on what we need to do well, what we need to do better, give ourselves a bit of a rest because everyone's knackered.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to kind of just think about what we can do to pay it forward. Because I know, you know, I've been doing Mail Club. So I'm sending out like kind of 20 odd letters a week at the moment. And actually I've started writing to, there's an old people's home near me where people are really isolated because their loved ones can't go in. So I contacted them and I've got a couple of names I'm writing to people there. I've been writing to the hospice where my mum passed away because I know how they'll be on lockdown. You know, and just reaching out to people who, you know, are on their own or finding this difficult because, you know what, as you suggest, you can be in a house full of people and be finding this the loneliest time ever.
Yeah, a lot of people are finding this difficult. I mean, I was literally just saying to you before this call that I've been getting some WhatsApp messages from somebody that made me think, you know, they're stressing, they're panicking, they're anxious, etc. And my, you know, and I hate to admit it, but my first response this morning was, I'm just going to mute them. Like, I'm going to mute them. And then I thought, no, Cheryl, that is not the response. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and call them. So yeah, do literally kind of like pick up the phone, and that's a good test actually, because you can tell where people are based on the sorts of things that they're messaging you. So if you're getting that vibe, pick up the phone and speak to them. And I think that goes both ways, whether the messages are all panic, or actually whether the messages are all sunshine and light and no sense of reality almost, because actually I think even those people are kind of coming crashing down. I have my down days, definitely. This situation is very, very overwhelming, you know, and I've definitely had days where, you know, out for a run with Lear or whatever, we've just been like, you know, what is going on? You know, it's so kind of, you know, so just look out for people that maybe are showing that they're kind of, you know, going one way or the other, and just kind of help kind of bring some sense of normality back into it, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, and cut people some slack. You know, I kind of messaged everybody who I speak to regularly on Friday and said, I am fed up and you know, I'm going to bed. And I actually spoke to you, didn't I? And you were like, that's fine. You know, off you go. You can do what you need to do. And I think, you know, there is something at the moment, if everyone's reacting differently, and let's just try and be mindful of that. It's a huge amount of emotions kicking around. And of course, if like me, you want to build talking to people into your schedule.
Do it. We'll have to get you to share your schedule.
Well, no, I'm embarrassed by it now, but I will post it up for you guys. So we'll be putting a link on here to and I'll give you an example of some of the stuff that kind of we're talking about, because when you break it down, it actually really helps you get to a level of understanding what you need to do each day, you know.
Absolutely.
And I just think that's kind of helpful. That's helpful at the moment.
Yeah, cool. So that's it really. That's the first of these little kind of just sort of, you know, out of the usual sort of podcast, or business unusual as people are now calling it. So that was the first of these podcasts. But yeah, every you know, every sort of so often we're just going to sort of check in with how you're doing. Please do get in touch. You know, we're still online, so head over to reboot.global if you want to kind of put in some time with us, if you want to get some time with Emma to revamp your CV because you're panicking slightly, or you just want to kind of get some time with me, just have a chat and sort of you know, find out a bit more about the monkey in the back.
It's so chill, man. I love it. I feel like it mocks me every time you call me. It's just like, hey man, I'm chilling. It's the antithesis of me. But yeah, you know, and I hope it hasn't been too freaky for all of you to actually see us. And also, you might notice that one of the things I do when I'm bored is I dye my hair. So my hair's been both purple and green in the last 4 days, much to the delight of my godchildren. But yeah, you know, do let us know what type of stuff you want us to discuss. We've got a couple of things that we're going to be going through. We'd love to have you guys on if you want to have a recorded Zoom. The longer podcast will be coming out kind of as normal. For you. And please do just get in touch. I loved, a couple of weeks ago, I had probably about 15-20 calls in 1 week where we were just talking about how we were around kind of social distancing, and everyone's gone into isolation, locked themselves off. So please do pick up the phone. We're still here.
Definitely.
And, you know, remember, you're not, whether you're in a house full of people and really enjoying this, whether you're in a house full of people finding it hard, whether you're on your own and enjoying it, whether you're on your own and finding it really hard, you know, we're around and happy to have a chat at any point.
Definitely. Okay. Right. And we will see you next time.
Bye.